Welcome to Sit Still and Listen. I'm your host, Beth Cornell, and I'm here with my co-host,
Sarah Cornell. Hello.
Who has brought this topic up to me, and I thought it's good that we'll discuss it and probably publish it in the next few weeks when it becomes super relevant.
Yeah.
And even though this isn't an evergreen topic, this is a very contemporary, just going to be in this moment kind of topic. It's still something that probably has a little more of an overarching effect than people might realize.
Yeah. So. This is probably going to be, this topic is very heavy. It hasn't necessarily come to fruition yet. But I have a feeling that, I mean, it has in some states in our country, but not yet. So we're talking today about reopening schools during COVID-19. There's one state in particular I want to bring up, and I can link the thread in the description. It was on Twitter that I noticed it at first, and obviously we have a family friend of ours has a daughter, and she is of high school age, and she has to go back. You know, you can't just not go to school. In this, it's the state of Georgia. Off the top of my head, I can't remember what county, but again, all the information will be linked in the description. They're basically having no social distancing. The mask, they're not requiring face masks at all. And there is no protocol for staggered starts and staggered release times. There's like none of that. So it's frightening. It's terrifying to see these, children, they are children, basically dying for an education, literally. And as somebody who graduated just last year, I couldn't imagine going back to college right now, and being put in a situation where I would have to be in a classroom. I can't tell you how many times, I've been right next to somebody working, like shoulder to shoulder, working with somebody in a classroom setting. So that can't be a thing anymore. And the fact that it still is in certain states in the US right now is scary. Well, one of the nurses of the school, like one of the head nurses, has actually resigned from her position. And essentially she was told by the school that in the nurses' ward in the school, you were to split children based on their symptoms. So it would be if they were displaying symptoms of COVID, they would go on one side of the room, and then the quote unquote like healthy kids would be put on the other side of the exact same room. But if anybody has been inside of a school nurse's office, they're small. There isn't room for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in fact, a lot of the elementaries have a room that's a little bigger than a closet for the nurse to be in.
Yeah. So in like sometimes, I mean, I know in my high school, it was a room. There was like the nurse's office, which is where you like walked into, and it's no bigger than my closet that I'm sitting in right now, but it had an additional door towards the back that if you walked through it, there were 3 beds lined up against the wall. Well, if you have any more than 3 kids and they're displaying symptoms of COVID, where are you going to put the rest of the kids? And I don't know. And they've already, the other thing too about the situation in Georgia is they're threatening punishment to both teachers and students alike, that if you post or complain on social media, that there will be consequences. There's an audio clip that's floating around, again, in this thread that I will link in the description if you want a little bit more information. A little bit more context than just me kind of regurgitating some information for you. But it's a recording of the principal during announcements, warning the students that if they do anything, if they take pictures, they do anything, there will be consequences for their actions. Again, he doesn't say what those consequences are, but the fact that you're threatening your students' ability to speak up and out about this situation that they are in, that you have put them in, is a problem, because it's not legal. It's very illegal.
I think there are going to be several things that come out of this in Georgia.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And a lot of people are encouraging the students in this particular county to boycott the school. Don't go, because what they're threatening the students with.
There are laws, though, around school.
Yeah, but the thing is all they're doing is suspending the kids. That's all they're doing. They suspend them for a couple weeks. And you can't, the mentality is you can't suspend all of us. So,
true. Let me just talk a little bit about what was going on and what I know here in Arizona.
While you're doing that, I will listen. I will continue to find information about what I was talking about so I can back myself up a little bit.
Okay, yeah. Please do. Yeah, and I'll put links to what I'm talking about down there too. Sarah and I are in the state of Arizona, which up until last week has been deemed one of the worst outbreaks. We were the epicenter for a period of time, and apparently our hospitals were overrun, and we had to have refrigerated morgue space, which turns into refrigerated funeral space this week because the funerals can't happen fast enough here. So this is where we're at. Our schools were to start this week, and they all started online until at least August 17th. Today I heard on the radio, our health department came out with what they call metrics or standards, which are suggestions. These are not mandates. The schools do not have to meet these in order to open to in-school learning. They're just suggestions, and strong suggestions, I guess. But there are 20 schools already open here, I heard on the radio today. I don't know where they're at.
Where?
In-person learning. I think some of the CTEs are open because that's like learning hands-on. You can't do that through the internet. You can't learn culinary arts through the internet. Anyway, sidetracked. Public schools are going to open in some way on the 17th. They didn't change that date today. So they have about 10 days to figure this out. That to me is not enough time. And in districts that are large, like the one that my house is in, there's 25,000 kids in this district. And they have, 4 or 5 high schools, and I don't know how many elementaries, a lot. It's spread over a fairly large piece of geography, but these schools are crowded. They always have been.
When I was, even when I was when I was attending school, when I was in second grade here, we had classrooms up to 30 kids, and that was in second grade. Like, it's not, we really pack these schools to the brim down here.
Public schools are going to open here on the 17th, so I don't know how that's going to go. And as far as me being a teacher, I'm not a teacher right now. I chose not to take a job and go into a public school. And that is because I live with an immune compromised man, and I don't want to bring home a sickness to him. I don't think there's enough that they can do. Having been in schools and having seen what happens in schools, I don't think there's enough that they can do. But having said that, I think the way that they're going about online school is not, it's kind of like, let's do school how we always do school, but we're going to do it through a screen. They should be a little more creative with that, and they should come up kind of, having done homeschool myself, there are just so many ways to teach a kid, and It's not just this one way. So it's kind of frustrating when I hear teachers talk about what they're doing or planning to do, especially with young children. And this is going to take sacrifice on the part of the parent. There's no doubt about that. And somehow, some way, they need support, because to leave parents totally holding the bag for everything in this situation is not just irresponsible, it's immoral and it's inhumane. And if the children suffer, it's going to be in part because of that. Mm-hmm. Having them go back to school, have outbreaks, and have people die right in front of them, do you really think that's an option? I don't. And like Sarah said, if she were in school, she wouldn't be in school. This would be one of those affidavit for homeschool situations, which I've had other times when her charter school decided to grow its population and not add staff. So instead of 600 students, they had 1,200. They had the same amount of staff. How do you think that went?
Terribly.
It went terribly, and to where Sarah was actually running the classroom in part because she's bossy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So out you go. I can't have my kid in charge of a classroom in 7th grade. So the other time, it was a situation where there was mold in the building and they didn't know it, and she come home sick.
Like really sick.
2-3 times. Yes, throwing up, really sick. Can't figure out what's wrong with her. Well, she was fine before she went to that school, so let's take her out of that school. Guess what? She's been fine ever since. So, as a parent, if you're not paying attention right now, you should be. And if you're a parent and you're not willing to step up and get your kid educated, I fully understand you might not be capable of it. I wasn't, but I found ways to engage what her interests were and keep her intellectually curious and pursuing learning. It's not that hard. It's something that's quite natural to young children if you don't get in the way of it. It's just very innate. Would you agree, Sarah? Was your homeschooling torture?
Yeah, it was. I liked being homeschooled. It was nice because I could do it whenever I wanted. There wasn't like okay, now you have to sit still. Now you have to do this. Now you must do this. There was none of that.
Do you feel like you lack socialization or social skills because you were homeschooled or moved a lot?
No.
You maintained friendships from those schools throughout your life. You still know some of those kids.
Yeah, I do.
Who are now grown-ups.
Yeah.
So, it's on the part of the parent. I'm sorry.
It's hard to really figure out whether or not I have problems with social stuff, because I grew up in the age of the internet where it didn't really matter too much if I moved, because I always had a way of going back and talking to them. Obviously, it was at the dawn of the internet, like before it is what it is now. Like the internet in the early 2000s was essentially just a bunch of tubes with cats inside. Like it's not what it is now, where it's, this.
Teachers are not going to feel valued when they're teaching through this, because they've been taught to teach in a classroom. Well, their skills are not being used or utilized, and they're trying to make do with the things that Zoom can do to engage the students and keep them learning.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to do that when you've got first, second, third graders or kindergarten. Yeah.
I'm coming at this from a different perspective entirely.
You're kind of coming at it from an adult perspective too.
The perspective I'm coming from here is college students as well as like high school students.
Let me go to college now. ASU has decided to create a bubble. They're calling it, I forget what they're calling it. Let me think. It's like the wellness bubble or something like that.
We'll look it up.
I'll put the link down below and you can read about it. But if a student agrees to this, they have to have an app. They have to report how they feel every day. They have to have screenings. I believe they're going to have some sorts of rapid testing available on the campus. And they are planning to do a lot of social distancing in classroom, but have kids on campus at the start of school here. Towards the end of the month, they start like the week after public school does here. So what I'm saying is they've taken it into consideration a lot more than public school has. And I think the way they're doing it is safer. They have a way to contact trace people with this app. They have a way to, the children or young adults have to make an agreement not to go out to bars. They have to make an agreement not to not wear a mask while they're off campus. So this affects their behavior off campus as well as on campus. If they want to come to school, they have to agree to these things and follow them. And they have ways built into this plan to enforce this.
Yeah.
And if somebody does come down with it, they have a way to isolate that person, contact trace who they've been around, and contain the outbreak right there at the source. And that's what's missing from public school here. Nobody's talking about that. And there's no bubble. The people come and go all day. And it's not just people that work at the school, it's vendors that bring food. The food service truck comes and a truck gets unloaded by people. Mm-hmm. It's not just food service, it's the book distributors, the people who go to the warehouse, bring the books into the school, bring the science kits into the school and back. It's the bus drivers. They work twice a day. What are they doing in between there? Where are they going? Who are they with? They could be fine in the morning and infected in the afternoon, you know. Yeah. I'm not trying to scare anybody away from sending your kid to school, but you should really think about it.
Please consider
when it does open, and be involved in the decision making, because they're leaving it up to the very local level. They're leaving it up to almost each individual school because they want to know about the spread in the community. The metrics are very localized. So one school in one district could be open over here, but then across the district over here, there might be too much spread, and that school might not open, or it might open with other, you know, precautions in place or whatever. And it's a lot of or whatever for me as a parent. And as a teacher, I don't think all the questions have been answered. If a teacher gets sick, are they going to have paid leave? Or is their insurance carrier going to continue? Is it going to pay for if they become infected? They could be out for a month or more. And they could not be able to come back. Yeah,
depending on the severity of the case. I mean, like you're and it's not just that. I mean, if the teacher gets sick, there's that, but you know, if that teacher passes it to a kid or she got it from a student in her class, are they going to just quarantine that whole classroom of kids, of 30 or more kids in a room, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't think that, I mean, you know, we aren't trying to scare parents. We're really not. That's not the point of this. The point is to bring awareness to the fact that if you think that sending your child to school would be a safe thing because, I don't know, your neighbor or like somebody else in your family is sending their child back, please consider alternate means of schooling your child. I mean, there are a plethora of ways to do it nowadays. I mean, I remember being homeschooled and having these big, thick worksheet books that she would buy, and I would have to, you know, work through them to do math and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, there's so much more to learn now and different ways to do it.
The Adobe platform has lower grade education programs as well.
Mm-hmm.
The Adobe platform, Adobe for Education, is very recommended by both of us. We've both been through some of their stuff.
Yep.
Not just the online learning though. A lot of your stuff that we did, Sarah, was unlearning and going out in nature and going outside and learning about the world.
Going on field trips.
Traveling isn't so, yeah, but that's something that's not so much a thing, but like the zoo is having drive-through zoo right now.
Yeah.
I mean, there are other ways to teach than just,
sit down
like
in front of a computer and do the thing.
Or drilling down on worksheets or whatever,
Yeah, no, there's other ways. Like, I mean,
you can look up the standards for your child's grade online too. I believe the Department of Ed has them listed per grade level. And so you can see what your child's going to learn that year and just focus on those things. Or if your child has one area that they really like, you could trade off, day for day. You can work in your area today, but we have to hit some of these standards tomorrow, Personally, I wish they would come out and say, you know what, this school year's done. We're going to try again next fall.
Yeah.
And really just get nipped in the bud. And because people need to learn how to behave around this virus, and that's going to take a while. And I would wish it wouldn't take a lot of death in order for people to learn about how to take care of themselves. Mm-hmm. And I sigh, it's going to. I fear it's going to.
I would like to think that prioritizing American lives, regardless of age, gender, sexuality, wealth status, all of that, I don't care. Just, I would prioritize that over everything else. Because if you don't have somebody living, you don't have the rest of that.
Yeah, and I think that's the part where, like, people who don't really think deeply, I'll say it, they don't think deeply, they don't think things through past maybe the first couple of steps, and they're in kind of a crisis panic situation where they're, maybe a little bit more in their survival and decision. They're able to take in more facts. By facts, I mean scientific method type facts. I'm not saying that they're rock solid and they can't change, but they can evolve. They can think one thing one day and evidence that disputes what they think and think something different the next day, But people who are in that kind of heightened survival don't have time for that. They want to grasp at the thing that's right in front of them. They want that answer and they want that to be the truth. And there's quite a bit, I don't want to say wishful thinking, but what brings to mind is like The Secret, that movie from a while back.
Yes.
It was about like if you visualize it and you put it in front of you and you think positive and you feel the emotion of having something, you can make that thing happen. Well, or make that thing yours in a possessive sort of way. And of course, that's not how that works.
No.
But I kind of feel like there's a segment of our population that's doing that right now. Like if we just do this surface science and we just say that those are our metrics and we take a very broad glance over things and give the okay, then when something doesn't go right, we can have more knee-jerk reactions around that and blame people or blame things that are beyond our control that we didn't think about and can't see, quite frankly.
Because we're not looking that far ahead. I mean, look, if we open schools, if we were to open schools right now, say we're not waiting until the 17th here in Arizona, what's that going to look like in 6 months?
Well, and that's what I was getting at. If you don't have a healthy population, you can't have a healthy bottom line. You can't have a thriving economy. You can't have a well-educated populace when the schools are being run and there's this cloud of fear hanging over the entire student population, along with all the parents, all the teachers.
Yeah, because like that's another thing. Like I would, if I was like going to school right now, I would be terrified. I would be so scared constantly.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to go in the building.
I don't think
I've seen how germy the buildings are.
And like I mean, I don't remember being that sick when I was in high school. I remember being sick a couple of times, but those couple of times were bad. Like it wasn't like, oh, I got a little bit of the sniffles, or oh, my stomach's not so good. No, it's like I was gone for like a week, and it was just
usually it's the flu, or some other virus that just wipes out the school. In fact, my niece's school had to close right before we shut down for good because there were so many sick teachers. They didn't have enough staff to run the school, and it's a small school, but still,
yeah.
you know, I foresee things like that happening, and
Yeah.
you know, it will get recorded big time the first few times, but then it'll just become acceptable. And I'm afraid that it'll become acceptable, just like, you know, 1,000 people per day. It is what it is. It's that we can't do any better, and we so can. And we just, okay, set two men in a little tiny capsule up to a thing that's orbiting.
I know.
And back. We can do so much better. People, get your head out your ass. We can do it so much better.
Oh my God.
And kind of to encapsulate all of it, you know, if you feel you need relief from your children, make your own bubble. Find other families of kids who, you know, your kids' friends.
You will not be alone. You will not be alone.
You won't be alone. And social distance. I know it's kind of hot here in Arizona for these sorts of outdoor events right now, but once you can get out, you know, throw frisbees, you know, go to parks.
With gloves, for God's sakes.
And masks, and take a walk. And, you know, we have so much here that doesn't require grouping. And
yeah, and like
enjoyably socially distanced from one another.
There are really good local educational hiking trails that you can hike and learn about the local flora and fauna, as well as like some of the cultural things here. Arizona has a very rich history of Native Americans living here.
And geology, oh my God, if you love dinosaurs and geology and rocks, we have some of the biggest, greatest, rock formations. We have the Grand Canyon. We'd love to hear from anybody who has an opinion on this, because I'm sure a lot of people do.
Yeah, please, if you're a student or a parent of a student, let us know what your thoughts are on this situation, because your thoughts and worries and concerns are important and valid, and we kind of want the comment section to be kind of like an open forum to kind of be like, you know, I'm in this situation, what should I do?
Well, we're not going to have a lot of advice for that, but
no, but somebody else might. Somebody else might. Yeah, we can do our best to try and supplement. We're here to start the conversation. We
basically provide a few links of information.
Exactly. But, do our best to help.
What I want to say is we don't have the answers, and we have our opinions, but they're not, you know, grounded in anything other than the facts that we know and the things that we feel.
Yep.
And the things that we have learned through experience. You know, learning through experience is valuable, and it's what leads to what's known as wisdom. I believe that we're lacking a lot of that in this country at the moment, because we don't seem to be able to learn from our experiences. There's kind of what I like to refer to as an idiot loop playing, and we can't seem to come out of it. I'm hopeful that through the end of this year, something snaps us out of it. But right now, you know, it's a replay.
Yeah, it's literally the embodiment of the same shit, different day. situation where
or the definition of insanity. Let's keep trying to do the same thing expecting a different result.
yeah, and it's not, you need to do something completely different. Time to make a different choice. I spent some time on the good old twits while you were waffling there for a bit, and it's Paulding County, Georgia is where this school is located. And I will, like I said, I will link this in the description. And this, more specifically, North Paulding High School. Apparently, the footballers, the entire football team had tested positive for COVID right before the shutdown there. So, if that kind of tells you what's happening, it's I just want people to keep their children safe. That's all. I mean, I don't mean to harp on this. I don't like that whole think of the children argument, but this is the time for it.
Right.
If you believe that the children are the future, I don't think you could, in good conscience or in good faith, send the future to essentially a death school.
And just to address one more thing before we kind of wrap this rambling discussion up. I've heard a lot of arguments with people saying if we can open restaurants and we're reopening gyms here, if the grocery stores have stayed open, if Home Depot's open and Best Buy is open, why can't a school be open? Because those are controlled spaces where people are socially distanced, we hope, and wearing a mask. And also they're keeping out, they're controlling it by only letting so many people in at a time.
And currently, in the state of Arizona at least, and Maricopa County specifically, it's mandatory. You have to wear a mask.
Yes.
With the whole not, the argument of like, this place is open, this place is open, why don't we open schools? They're not going to mandate a mask. Georgia North Paulding High, they're not requiring students to wear masks at all. There is no social there's none of that. And if you can't, here they are and here they will, but we'll see what that looks like on August 17th. Because
there are some very strong non-mask wearers around here, and the stores have caved. Walmart, Safeway, I believe, maybe Fry's, have gone and said, if you can't wear a mask, you can still come in, because they had to. There are just some people who won't wear a mask.
And they'll put up a big stink about it too. Like a really big, rip-snorting, ugly, just...
They wanted to protect their employees, so they said, we're going to give those people a pass.
Yeah, and
so when school starts up, there will be those passes given. I'm quite certain of it, because there are just going to be some parents and some children who are just very strong non-mask wearers. I'll say we're going to drop a few links in here for some fun masks as well. And I love you, Sarah.
I love you too, Ma.
Peace out, people.
Bye.